Welcome to Between Over and Next with your hosts, Holli and Robert, a happily married couple who explore the space between what was, what is, and what's to come. From career changes to navigating life's uncertainties, this dynamic duo will empower you to live your happiest life at every age and stage. So, get ready because your journey with Holli and Robert starts now.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Between Over and Next. Hi, Holli.
Hi, Robert.
How are you today?
I am good, but I'm really happy that we are going to be sharing a really wonderful story.
Yeah. Well, when we talk about the pivot in its rawest form, we think about careers, right? And jobs. And we always like to hear the stories of people who find their purpose, like what they're supposed to be doing. Because I think a lot of people, when they have a job, a 9 to 5, or whatever the shift that you work, you may or may not be in that place where you feel that it's meant to be. So when we discover people whose story really is about that, right? They're doing one thing. They have this revelation, right? Which is the case here.
A spark of
a moment, is it a song that comes on the radio when you're driving in the car? Is it something you see at the side of the road? But it's something.
But the something is happening because there's something that's not happening.
Well, is it the whole, when one door closes, another one opens? I don't think we are in control of the doors or windows that open in our lives. What we're in control of, I believe, is being aware enough as you go through life that you see the open door, you see the open window, and then you're able to go through, right? To see that opportunity. So I think really it's much more of an awareness of what's around you, what's happening, and being open. I don't think there's anything that you can go through in life that isn't better in some way when you have support in doing it.
But the way you can be successful with your Between Over and Next is by knowing that it's possible, being determined, knowing that you can invest time in learning something new or something that really drives joy. And you don't have to be stuck in a traditional job. And you really don't know what's possible until you embrace it. Our guest today is Shannon Mayernik, and she is 41 years young, and she figured it out. And we talk about her story and the pursuit of what she created with her husband, Matt, and it was all driven by passion and purpose. Let's introduce Shannon.
Yeah, let's learn more from Shannon.
Welcome, Shannon.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
You said to me that it took 41 years to say wholeheartedly, I love what I do.
Yes.
So can you take us through that journey from graduating with a communications journalism degree to the pivotal moments, which is something we focus on a lot here at Between Over and Next, or the realizations of when you decided to transition from that job, that job that you hated in publishing, to owning your own business with Mayernik Kitchen, and share some of those moments that led you to this point.
I started my, career right out of college. It was 3 weeks after I had graduated. I got a temp position at a publisher and said, okay, we'll take this for the summer. We'll see where it goes. Well, 12 years later, I was still there. I worked in publishing. It was a job where I sat behind a desk all day. I dealt with college bookstores. It it didn't fill me at all. And, the years would pass. Okay, I'm going to start looking. And then you're comfortable and you're happy with your salary. And it's just something that I kept putting off. But then in 2015, my husband Matt and I established Mayernik Kitchen. We had both been gardeners. We loved being outside. And that's when it really started to shift for me, knowing, okay, maybe I could take this and do something else. So it was literally one day in 2018. So we had Mayernik Kitchen now for 3 years, and I was doing it, on the part-time side while still working full-time. I went to a local farm just to pick up eggs in the morning, and as I was driving out, it just hit me. I said, I have to quit my job. This is not what I want to do. And I said, and I'm going to apply to this farm as a part-time thing to see where it goes. So that's exactly what I did. I went home, I talked to Matt. I mean, there had been months and months of me crying at the dinner table because I had really disliked my job, my full-time job. And he knew we had to make changes. Maybe it just wasn't the right time. And on that morning, it was the right time. So by that spring, I had given my notice at the publisher and had gotten a job in the greenhouses at a local farm. It was only 4 miles from our house. And that's where it really took off. I worked there for 3 years part-time. And then in 2020, we opened up our storefront, and that is now my full-time job.
When you took on that part-time job, did you immediately start to feel differently?
Oh,
I mean, life changed?
Yes, absolutely. It was very much so. I enjoyed going to that job. I loved being in the greenhouses. I was out in the field. They had flower fields where we'd pick bouquets every morning. I was out in nature. I was with people I enjoyed being with. It was the furthest from a 9-to-5 office job. So yes, a lot of things started to shift, and it allowed us to really then put a lot more effort and energy into Mayernik Kitchen, which was great because Matt still has his full-time job. So it allowed me more space and time to grow that.
So your education, though, was in communications and journalism.
Yeah.
So what did you want to be when you grew up?
When I was in school, I loved broadcasting. I went to Clifton High. We had a program called Cast, and it was all like video production. And that's what I had thought I wanted to do. I minored in journalism. When I started at the publisher, I said, well, maybe I'll take it more towards writing. Thought about going back to school to become an English teacher. I love books. I'm an avid reader. These were college textbooks I was working with, so a little different. But I don't think I really knew, to be honest with you. I was kind of just going through the steps. Graduated, got a temp job, and then just stayed for 12 years.
So what was the education that led you into opening your own business?
I took one class and fell in love with it. And then that's when I started diving really deep. I took a 2.5-year course online through an herbal school. I did a 3-year apprenticeship in person with a local herbalist up in West Milford. I've taken many other online courses and classes, and I'm learning every day. But then to translate that over into owning a business, that's kind of where Matt came in, because he had the know-all of how to, number one, start a business and how to get it going. He is a web designer and owns a digital agency, so he was able to do all of that back-end work of a website. I know how to turn the computer on, and that's about it. But let me talk about herbs and teach. So that's where I kind of come into it. So starting an entrepreneur life it's different. You have to be true to yourself. You have to be reliable to yourself. You have to have discipline. It's not showing up for somebody else. It's showing up for yourself. So that was a lot to learn too.
And you're working with your husband.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that's a unique
That's
partnership,
another, yep,
which is something that we're familiar with.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it works.
It does, because we know our roles. I'm the face of the business. I'm at the store. I know our customers. I know who's placing orders online. He's doing all the behind work stuff, which then, gets us the organic stuff. And so it is a great partnership that we have. And I'm very grateful for it, because I need something, I could ask him. It's not going to a third party or anything like that. It works very well.
And your business is your happy place.
It is. It is.
So you've embraced herbalism as a central part of your business. What aspects of being an herbalist do you find most rewarding, and how has it enriched the lives of others?
It's just being able to help others, helping them realize that there are alternatives to maybe running to CVS and grabbing something off of the shelf.
Let everyone know what some of that advice would be.
So you have a cold. Instead of going and getting your Dayquil or your NyQuil, maybe try some elderberry syrup or fire tonic, maybe a few cups of tea throughout the day. So there's different things you could start incorporating. It's not just necessarily when you're feeling sick, it's also a great preventative to not get sick. So that's something we also love to teach, is just the preventative side of it. So you're not feeling like, oh, I don't feel great now, I can't do anything other than go to the pharmacy to get something. It's too late to start drinking tea now. I already feel crappy. So it's kind of that education that we like to instill, to let people know you could do preventative things. And a lot of these things are sometimes like coming out of your backyard.
Like what?
Dandelions. Everyone looks at it as a weed. It's not a weed. It could be used medicinally from flower to root, and it's great for your digestive system. It's good for immunity. It's good for the liver. Your fruits and vegetables you may be growing in your garden or getting from your local market. It doesn't just have to be about herbs. One of our biggest things is the education on how we could work with other local seasonal type companies to keep our health in check, pretty much.
So your journey involves a deep connection to nature.
Yes, very
and
much so.
to local farming. Mm-hmm. We started talking about some of the benefits of incorporating these plants into our lives. So what actually is plant medicine?
So plant medicine is, we're making a product, most likely for an ailment, that's going to work with your systems. So plant medicine is kind of just the term used. We're using plants. It's your alternative medicine. I'm sure we've all heard the term alternative medicine, and that could be anything from a chiropractor to acupuncture to meditation. We're using plants to make medicine. Matt and I take it for all sorts of ailments, from headaches to if I have cramps, or if he cuts his finger in the kitchen, he'll use some yarrow tincture to help stop bleeding. So it's just different ways to use the plants that grow locally to us in a different way than looking at them sometimes as a weed, which many people do.
So if they didn't come to Mayernik Apothecary, what are some of the plants that someone could grow in their backyard?
Anywhere from some medicinal plants that are easily grown, lemon balm, catnip, yarrow, echinacea, dandelions wild, so you're not going to necessarily plant. Oh my goodness. Borage, bone set. We grow about 60 to 70 medicinal plants up on the farm, so we're cultivating a lot of these plants, but then we're also going out and foraging them to use in our products.
I think what many people forget is that before there was what we know as medicine, there was medicine,
Yep.
right? People have had pain and ailments since the dawn of time, right? Since they're human beings. So people were being treated
Yep.
way before pharmaceutical companies
Sure.
arrived, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's our grandparents or great-grandparents. I remember the home remedies that my grandmother used to have. And you would laugh, but they would work.
Yep.
And they were passed down for generations.
But it
right?
stopped.
We've definitely lost it. I do feel it's coming back a bit from when I even started 15 years ago studying. I do feel it's coming back with the younger generation who is maybe a little more interested in it, and they're becoming more aware of the products they eat or the ingredients in their food. So I do see it's coming back, but from what you said, that's exactly it. That was the only medicine.
Right.
You'd go down to your local pharmacy or your little witch doctor on the corner, and you would get potions and elixirs, and that's how society
Yeah.
ran.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have some customer stories of transformation.
We had one woman, and she's still a very regular customer, who had come in and had told me that she had to get both hips replaced. And she was maybe mid-70s. And she said the pain is just so much. And she was waiting, because this was very early 2021. So we were all in that state where things were getting pushed back. She didn't have a date, and she said, I don't think it's going to be for another 6 to 8 months that I get this done. So we had shared with her our Pain Be Gone salve. Well, she would come in every week and buy 3 or 4 containers, and she said she would just lather it literally on her hips, her pelvic area, and she said it worked tremendously for her until she had to get that surgery, which, yes, modern medicine is in place for certain things, and I think it totally changed the trajectory of those months where she was just waiting and waiting and waiting. And it's one of our most, I don't want to say simple products, but it's externally used, so she's not ingesting it, and just had such success with it to get her through those months until she was able to get that surgery.
That's a topical, and it's also when people are in pain, all you want is some relief.
Yes.
Just a little relief to like a lot of relief. And yes, if surgery's needed, surgery's needed.
Sure.
But what can you do in the interim? What about sleep? I would think that there
That's
are
a huge one. Yeah.
right. I mean, I know many people are battling
It's stress,
a good
anxiety,
night's
and sleep.
Stress, anxiety, pain, and sleep.
Yeah.
And inflammation.
Yep.
Right?
Digestion. Yeah. We could
Digestion,
go on,
and then
yeah.
and then immunity. I mean, especially since the pandemic.
Yeah. Take something as simple as ginger. We're all very familiar with ginger. Great for digestion, great for morning sickness or motion sickness. It's also really good for inflammation. So a lot of people automatically say turmeric for inflammation, which is amazing for inflammation, but ginger is more readily available. And you could take that as a tea, you could take it as a tincture, and it's a common food. People are a lot more
Familiar.
likely to try something they're familiar with rather than me rambling off some, odd herb, and they're like, that sounds like it should be like in Harry Potter or something. So
But isn't there one called like ashwagandha?
yeah, and that's great for anxiety.
right, the cortisol, cortisol levels.
Yep,
right.
yep.
I know a little bit.
Yeah. Another one for sleep would be, I would say, chamomile. And we think of chamomile most likely as a tea, but we make a tincture with it. And it's one of the safest herbs from the littlest of littles to the elders. So it's an herb that everyone could use, and it is good for digestion. We don't think about chamomile for digestion, but it works well for digestion, for sleep, for anxiety. A lot of these herbs that we're familiar with tend to have a few different actions, so you could start incorporating them and be familiar with, okay, I know what this is. I could take it for XYZ, and then maybe you start branching out into some others.
I think that it's probably best to get most of these herbs from a professional. You want to make sure that what you're picking out in the wild or anything like that is what it is.
Sure.
But if you were to be able to grow only 3 herbs at home,
At home. Yep.
what 3 herbs would you be growing?
Lemon balm, chamomile,
Okay, 4 herbs.
yarrow, and probably echinacea. So the echinacea would cover immunity. Lemon balm would help with stress, anxiety. Chamomile, like we mentioned, stress, anxiety, digestion. And then yarrow has a blood clotting property to it, also great for fevers and infections. So you kind of cover that realm also.
Now, living in the Northeast, as we do, can these herbs be grown indoors as well, or should they all be grown outdoors?
Most of them should be grown outdoors because the ones I just mentioned are also all perennials. So they're going to overwinter regardless of the weather. You could have your basil, your thyme, your oregano, maybe in a windowsill inside. More of your kitchen herbs, we'd say. But I think the ones I mentioned, you put them in the garden or even in a pot outside, but then you let them go through their full cycles outside where they die back and then come back in the spring.
Give people an idea of what your garden looks like.
So we have a farm up in Sussex County where we usually have about 5,000 to 6,000 plants in the ground in a season. And that's on maybe a half an acre of land. It's not large at all. At home, we have a few different gardens that we grow in. So probably another maybe 2,500 plants at home that we have growing. And then we go out and we forage. So there's a lot of invasive plants that grow in this area that are used medicinally. So rather than us putting them into our garden and allowing them to take over the garden, we'll go out and we'll forage those.
You also offer classes and workshops, and I know you also do pop-ups at a variety of different places as well. Gardening is a hot topic. I know there are a lot of people that want to garden.
Yeah.
There's a lot that they can discover online by themselves, but they could absolutely be coming and learning more through you. Tell people more about that.
So we do offer classes in the shop. We have our apothecaries in Pompton Plains. We also offer classes if someone were to ask us to come in. We do them for garden clubs. We do them for libraries, along those lines. Matt runs a 10-month apprenticeship up on the farm. So you're starting seeds in February and then harvesting until November. So that's a 10-month program that he runs every year. One of my biggest suggestions to people who want to start is start small. I know you want to jump right in and plant all of the things, but starting small to get to really know those plants too, because it's not just growing them. Growing them's fine and probably one of the easier things to do when you're in the garden, but it's then utilizing it. So you don't want to just grow all of these plants and then come fall, they die. They're going through their cycle, so they'll die back. You want to be using them throughout the year. So learning to use specific plants that you have is a suggestion I always give, because if you're not using them, they're pretty to look at and the pollinators love them and the birds love them, but we want to be using them. So even if it's one pot on your fire escape, if you live in an apartment complex, get to really know that plant, work with it, use it in your food, use it in making medicine. And then next year, maybe invite another one in. So then you really get to know these plants and know how they could help you and your friends and your family, rather than having this beautiful garden of all these plants and you're overwhelmed.
Are most of these herbs able to be preserved over time?
Yes.
Like, if they're growing over the summer, we want to use them throughout the winter, you're able to do that?
Yes, we do that either by tincturing them, infusing oils or vinegars, drying them for teas, or drying them to then make a tincture in the middle of January. We dry a lot of our plants just because making that much fresh product just isn't sustainable to us. So we do dry to then continually make throughout the year. And I suggest anyone doing that, so then you could enjoy that springtime, summer, leafy green of lemon balm in the dead of winter when it's cold and miserable.
I hear a lot about fermentation these days.
Yeah.
What are the benefits of that?
It's so good for your gut. We try to eat fermented foods every day, whether it's like just one spoonful of sauerkraut or kimchi or a kombucha, just to keep your gut biome, working well.
Good health is inside out and outside in.
Absolutely. 100%.
And we need to fuel our bodies and our minds and our souls and our spirits with goodness. And I can tell from this conversation your joy.
Yes.
Which gives us joy, because we really want people to live their happiest, most fulfilled lives. There are so many people out there that are so miserable and so stuck in their jobs, and they hesitate to make that change. Yeah. As someone who has pivoted after many years, what you said, after 12 years, right, of being in one profession into something that you love what you do, what advice would you give to others that are seeking to find a job they truly love, and why is it worth the effort and patience?
I followed my passion. I fell in love with herbalism and really just followed it. I was working a full-time job and studying and taking courses and doing apprenticeships and starting to garden more. So I was doing that while still working. So it wasn't like I just woke up and was like, oh, I love this, I'm just going to quit this. So yes, patience is a huge, huge part of it. Also knowing that what you're doing, whether that's stepping away from a salaried job, make sure you're financially okay, because the stress of not being financially okay will just make it. So we were able to go ahead and let me leave that job and work part-time at a farm, which I'm going to tell you doesn't pay great, but it was something I was enjoying. I was coming home, I was happy, and that just seemed to be the best thing because it lit me up.
There's no price tag to that.
No, exactly. You definitely need to think about it. You need to kind of work through some of those big changes, but I think anyone could really make it happen. We had to cut back on things for a bit, and we had to maybe not go out to dinner a couple times a month, but we made it work.
Well, you have the support of your husband. With other mentors that you've had along the way that people would want to learn more about as well?
Oh, my number one mentor who I've learned so much from and spent 3 years learning from is Robin Rose Bennett. And she's local here in northern New Jersey in West Milford. She teaches class. She's written books. She runs an apprenticeship. I'm so grateful for everything I've learned from her.
We'll share her information in the show
Yeah,
notes.
yeah.
Because you know what? We all have sources of inspiration. And just want to pay it forward. So
Yes.
is there any piece of wisdom or strategy that you wish you had known earlier in your journey?
I do. They always say you quit your full-time job, you're working 40 hours, and then you start your own business and you're working 80, 90 hours. That's a true statement. And I will give kudos to Matt because he works a lot more hours than I do on any given day. You are going to be working a lot more. You're thinking a lot more. I would leave my office job and not think a thing about it. I'm constantly thinking about work, whether is the plumbing going to break in the building we're in, or are the plants not going to grow, or are we not going to be able to make this amount of tincture? It's always something. You really don't leave it at the door like you might have if you were in a job.
Well, it's yours.
Right.
There's
so it's my baby. Yeah.
It's number one, it's yours. You're not working for someone else.
Right.
And also, though, if you did come out of school your 20-year-old self, right, you may not have signed up for 80 or 90 hours a week or anything more
Right.
than the 40 you signed on for.
Right.
You don't know what you don't know. And knowing that it's not about the time spent, it is actually being happy at what you do.
Right. It just comes with owning your own business. You always hear people say it, but no, that's not going to happen, but it does.
So what's next for Shannon?
We've been looking for more land. We'd like to be living on the land we're growing on. Right now, we're just leasing some land. So that's always in the back of our mind to move, maybe west, north, we don't know. I am in the process of starting the journey to become a clinical herbalist, which will probably take about 5 years or so. So I will then be able to see clients and really work one-on-one than just what I'm doing now, which is a little more of like a community herbalist in the shop. So that would be my next transition into becoming a clinical herbalist.
I want to do a shout out for New Jersey because we're in the Garden State.
That's
so
right.
just to give us a little bit of the perks of being an herbalist and a local farmer grower in New Jersey.
It's awesome. The amount of people in this area that we get to reach and be connected to is great. I'm meeting new people literally every single day that I'm in the shop. And yes, it is the Garden State. A lot of people think about New Jersey just, flying into Newark or, very city-like. But you go anywhere pretty much 30, 40 minutes, you're going to come into country, farmland. You're going to be in the mountains. You could be at the beach. So it is very much so a wide range of landscape that we get to enjoy. We do a lot of farming in New Jersey. People don't realize it, but it is a farming state. For the amount of people here, they're kind of in their little areas, but it's great. And we've had the best support from Pompton Plains, which is the town our shop is in, up in Sussex County where we're growing. So it's overall a great state.
But we will have links to your website and to your social channels so everybody can be in the know of what's going on at Mayernik Kitchen and what's possible for them to incorporate into their lives for a healthier lifestyle.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
Thank you for
Shannon.
having me.
Thank you.
This was fun.
Robert, I'm inspired. Are you?
Absolutely. And I'm looking forward to a bountiful garden of ours this year.
Shannon is the evidence that anything is possible beyond a traditional career path. Something that matters most to us is helping other people. And Shannon is doing that every single day. By something she loves, she is sharing it with others through her business, but something she really loves. And importantly, what Shannon represents is that we should all be open to embracing change.
And to overcome the fear that's natural in situations like that. It's not a singular emotion that you're feeling. should you want to do that. Everyone who makes these types of moves feels that same sense of anxiety. I don't even want to use the word fear because it's not something to be afraid of, but certainly can understand how people might feel a little bit overwhelmed. And then you just use some plant medicine to balance your mood.
To feel a little better.
Right. So what better, entrepreneurial
It's good
adventure could you be on than natural herbs, natural medicine?
I think the biggest message is, though, even though we love what Shannon's work is all about and what her legacy will be, but importantly, you got to find a job you love.
Yeah.
You know, it may not happen overnight, but know that you can explore opportunities. They're really waiting there for you. Just tap into the things that you really love. She loved gardening.
Right.
She loved earth and plants.
Pardon the pun, dig deep and find what it is that you love.
Be open, be determined.
Because we have so much information at our fingertips that if you have a passion, a love, there's someone on the planet making money doing that, living a life by doing that. Life's too short to be unhappy. And I think your chosen career path, your job, as we've learned, both personally and through the people that we've talked to, not loving what you do on a day-to-day basis is a horrible feeling to have, to go through every day waking up and dreading.
And it
what it is that you
actually
do.
causes the stress, the anxiety,
It's,
and poor sleep. So,
because we've all been there at some point in our lives.
I mean,
right?
consider this a
So,
message.
Yeah.
As a wake-up call, and keep seeking out those opportunities to grow and thrive in your journey. It matters. You matter. You should be happy.
Right. Life's too short,
It is.
they say.
It's fleeting.
I hate that. It sounds so cliche, but it's so true.
Well, I love learning new things. I loved meeting Shannon. I'm grateful that she spent the time with us today. We hope that Shannon's story has inspired you to think bigger and better and what you really love to do.
Thanks for tuning in to Between Over and Next. We hope you enjoyed this episode and found it meaningful and insightful.
If you value it to be worthwhile, please share it with your friends and family.
We would really appreciate it if you could take a moment to write a review for us. Your feedback will help us continue to create content that resonates with you.
And don't forget, in the show notes, you can find all the relevant links mentioned in this episode, from accessing free downloads to visiting our website and more.
If you have any questions or comments, we would love to hear from you. Simply send us an email. Our email address is hello@hollyandrobert.com. We're always excited to connect with our listeners.
So until next time, thank you again for joining us on Between Over and Next.
Thank you for listening to Between Over and Next, the podcast that navigates the twists and turns of life with courage, laughter, and a whole lot of inspiration. Tune in every Tuesday to hang out with Holli and Robert on your favorite podcast platform. Visit hollyandrobert.com and follow them on social media to ignite your passion and fuel your dreams.